What is up, my friends? How are you guys doing? Welcome back. I hope everybody is feeling good, looking good, smelling good, thriving and striving. I hope everybody is doing well. Thanks so much for stopping in and hanging out with me for a little bit to talk about some movies today, guys. Today, we are talking about a movie from 2024. It's a documentary. I kind of got off the major motion picture bandwagon for a little while and decided that I was going to dive into a documentary that really piqued my interest. It's from last year, and it is called Conqueror, Hollywood Fallout, directed by William Nunez. Now, before we get into The Conqueror, the biggest flop in Hollywood history just about, hit that like and subscribe button for me. As you can tell, my voice, I'm a little nasally. I have had a head cold for like the past week. My allergies are kicking my butt, so I apologize for sounding like Fran Drescher from The Nanny. But, guys, this really piqued my interest because I read the synopsis, and this is a documentary about a film called The Conqueror, directed by Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire, playboy, whatever you want to call him, man of industry. This is directed by Howard Hughes, and it's an epic, right? It's in the 1950s. We had a lot of like the Ten Commandments and Ben-Hur and all these like epic in scope type of films. And Howard Hughes, he said, let me throw my hat into that mix. And so here we go with The Conqueror. But this is one of the most ill-fated productions in history. And by that, I mean, not only was this a critical failure, a monetary failure, financial failure. Actually, I say it was these failures, but I think critically it was acclaimed, and it technically made decent money. But in the overall scope of things, this movie was a giant failure. When you look back on it now, full of racist tropes, misogyny, sexist things, and then not to mention our own government, the glorious US of A, were testing nuclear warheads downwind, or upwind, I should say, from the place where this location was filming. So all of that radioactive fallout came down in the deserts near Georgetown, Nevada, or Utah, I'm sorry. St. George, Utah, or Georgia? St. George, Utah, something like that. Anyway, all that radioactive debris, particulates, everything came down across the desert. Technically, it spread all over the United States, from where it was tested all the way east into, New York, Louisiana, places like that. But the places that really got hit were the ones closest to Nevada, and that would be this place in Utah, where The Conqueror was filmed. Now, as I said before, The Conqueror is kind of considered like one of the biggest failures in the world because you have John Wayne, of all people, playing Genghis Khan, an Asian. So you've got the Duke, the Walhall, Pilgrim, or Walhall, playing Long Duck Dong from any racially stereotyped Asian film of that era. Like they just give him brown face, and then he recites these lines like a robot. He comes into the readings drunk as a skunk, and he says, I'll work with a dialect coach. You don't work with a dialect coach. The writer of the film is like, hey, he basically wrote it for people to speak in kind of that old movie English where they're like, you there, and it's just very kind of stylized language, but it sounds kind of archaic and old. So he wrote it so it could sound like that. But then you have, John Wayne, who's just doesn't do anything. He just sounds like a hick reciting lines, and it was ridiculous. So then you have all these, you have these stars, this guy, was it Bill Price, Dick Price, the director of the film. He's there, John Wayne's there, the stars are there. And then after this film is made, several decades later, people start dropping dead from cancer. People start getting really bad cancer. The director of the movie died. The star, Susan Hayward, she died. Well, John Wayne died of cancer. The supporting cast, out of 200 people on the set of this film, 91 died of cancer a couple decades later. Because while they were filming this movie, they could literally time it in the mornings. People would go up to these bluffs, these cliffs in Utah, and they would watch them test the nuclear bombs. They would watch them test them. They would see a big bright light and a mushroom cloud off in the distance, and they would just sit up there and have picnics and stuff and watch it. Little did they know that the prevailing winds were blowing all that radiation, all those particulates, towards them and their town. Then their sheep started getting deformed. Then their children started being born deformed, and then people started getting, early cancer, like little kids, 6 years old, getting cancer because, and it's really, and the thing is, the government, the Atomic Energy Commission, was telling everyone at the time, no, everything's safe, everything's great, but it wasn't. And it just goes to show you that the government will lie to you all the time. They're not your friends. And so it was a super interesting documentary about not only the utter failure of that film and the production woes and troubles and things like that, but how that film, the people in that film, were unwilling or unknowing participants in the Nevada nuclear tests. And it was a really informative and educational documentary about cinema and about government corruption and politics and things like that. And I thought that they blended the two really well when they were discussing all these things. I thought that the interviews from the people that were kids at the time living in this Utah town, these kids and stuff, they interviewed them. So it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to interview these famous people. No, they had everyday people that were like, look, they did make the movie here, yeah, and that's great and fine, but the sand literally had and it's just radioactive as all get out, and then they would bring the sand from the desert to the soundstage studio and put it inside the soundstage, basically a hermetically sealed bubble where they're all just bathing in radiation all day. It is a phenomenal documentary. It's fascinating. It's very educational, and I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to check it out. If you're a documentary fan, if you're a movie fan, if you're a documentary movie fan, this is what you need to check out, guys. You can find it streaming on Prime, on Tubi. Those are about your only two options, but it is well worth your time. Like I said, check it out. And guys, before you go, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for hanging around as long as you have. And as always, my friends, I am going to keep making them as long as you keep watching them. Peace out. God bless you, and I will see you soon.